You wake up with a heaviness you can't name. You stare at the ceiling and wonder why the day even matters. Not because you hate your life, but because you can't feel it. You go through motions that used to have meaning. Morning routines, responsibilities, small talk. All of it feels like an act you memorized long ago. And now you're performing it without the slightest connection to the role. You tell yourself to be grateful, to stop complaining. Other people would give anything to have what you have. So you swallow your discomfort and smile on command. Because what else can you do? Emptiness isn't dramatic. It doesn't make noise. It doesn't demand attention. It creeps in quietly until numbness feels normal. You used to feel things intensely. Excitement, curiosity, hope. But somewhere along your timeline, those feelings lost their strength. Now everything feels muted, as if life is happening behind soundproof glass. You've mastered the art of looking fine. You laugh, you nod, you participate. And people believe you because you're good at it. But when the conversations stop and the doors close, what's left is that blank, echoing space inside you. You try to distract yourself. Work harder, stay busy, fill every moment. But at night, when there's no noise left to hide behind, the emptiness returns, patient, unapologetic. And there's a part of you that wonders if you've somehow gone missing from your own life. If the version of you that once felt alive is still in there, somewhere, buried beneath years of holding it together. You feel like a stranger to yourself, like you're living the wrong story, like something essential slipped away, and you can't even remember when. And the scariest thought of all, what if this isn't temporary? What if this is just you now? But here's the truth. The mere fact that you feel the emptiness means you're still capable of wanting more. It means something inside you refuses to settle. It means part of you is waking up. This hollow feeling is not the absence of life. It is the signal that life is still searching for you. And you wouldn't be listening to this if you weren't already trying to find your way back. There was a time you didn't question who you were. You acted because something inside you wanted to move. You chose things because they felt right, not because they made sense to others. You were whole, but life has a subtle way of dividing you, piece by piece, expectation by expectation. Every time you were told to be realistic, another part of you stepped back. You learned which parts of yourself got approval, so you kept those on display. And the parts that made others uncomfortable, you tucked them away. You stopped expressing what you truly wanted, stopped speaking ideas that felt too bold, stopped doing things that didn't fit the role others gave you. And eventually, you forgot those parts were ever there. The world praised the version of you that was predictable, responsible, manageable. They loved the mask. So you became the mask. But masks are heavy, and they don't leave room to breathe. You've been rewarded for the polished version of yourself and punished, quietly, subtly, for the real one. You grew into someone who performs life instead of experiencing it. Every unspoken desire, every suppressed urge to explore something new. Every time you said, "I'm fine," when you were actually lost. Those pieces didn't disappear. They're waiting. Still alive. Still yours. The emptiness you feel is the space where your unexplored potential should be growing. There is a version of you that you never allowed to exist fully. A version that isn't shaped by expectation or fear or reputation. A version that feels like you, not the you others prefer. Somewhere inside, that version is still knocking, still demanding to be acknowledged, still asking, when is it my turn to live? The truth is simple. You did not lose yourself. You hid yourself. to survive, to belong, to avoid being misunderstood. But now, the cost is catching up to you. That emptiness is the bill you're paying for abandoning who you could be. And the moment you decide to go looking for those lost parts, you will realize they never once stopped looking for you. There are truths inside you that you never wanted to face. So you buried them. You locked them away behind silence and routine. You convinced yourself that ignoring the pain was the same as healing it. You learned to keep your voice down when your heart wanted to scream. You chose peace on the outside at the cost of chaos on the inside. Every disappointment you brushed off. Every moment you told yourself, it's not a big deal. Every time you pretended you were over it. Those moments didn't vanish. They stacked up. You thought strength meant holding everything in. You thought stoicism meant shutting everything out. But pressure doesn't disappear when you ignore it. It waits for the right moment to crush you. You swallowed anger instead of expressing it. You shut down joy because it felt vulnerable. You silenced desires because someone once told you they were too much. You became numb because feeling anything felt like too big of a risk. Your mind was trying to protect you. But the protection became a prison. You didn't lose the ability to feel. You trained yourself not to. And the more you hid from your inner storms, the quieter you became. Not peaceful, just empty. That heaviness in your chest, those quiet spikes of sadness you can't explain. Those aren't random. They are reminders, proof that your inner world is still alive, begging for your attention. You don't feel broken, you feel blank. Because you've spent years lowering the volume on your emotions until they became a whisper you can barely hear. But here's the thing. Suppressed emotions don't die. They wait, patiently. They show up as exhaustion, restlessness, emptiness. They show up as the feeling that something is missing, even when nothing is wrong. Your mind is not asking you to collapse. It's asking you to finally listen. The parts of you that were silenced do not resent you. They're just tired of being ignored. And the moment you dare to feel again, even a little, the numbness will crack. The truth will breathe. And healing will finally have somewhere to begin. There was a time when you woke up with a reason, a feeling that something was waiting for you. You had interests that pulled you forward. You had direction, even if it wasn't clear yet. But slowly, the spark faded. Not all at once, not dramatically, just little by little, until one day you realized you were only going through motions. Your life became a checklist. Wake up. Do what's expected. Push through the hours. Go to bed. Repeat. You call it stability. But deep inside, it feels like suffocation. Routine stole the excitement that once made you feel alive. Tasks replaced passion. Predictability replaced possibility. You function, but you don't feel. You're moving, but not toward anything that matters. You look around and think, this should be enough. Yet every part of you knows it isn't. You feel trapped by a life you built for safety. A life that checks every box except the one labeled purpose. And here's the quiet truth no one tells you. Success means nothing when who you are is missing from the equation. You don't need more comfort. You don't need a bigger routine. You need movement. Real movement. The kind that challenges you. The kind that scares you. The kind that reminds you that you're still alive. Meaning doesn't vanish on its own. It drifts away when you stop chasing what matters. When you trade curiosity for control. When you settle for fine instead of fighting for fulfilling. You didn't choose emptiness. You just stopped choosing yourself. And now, something inside you is asking to be reclaimed. Not tomorrow, not someday, Now, because life isn't meant to be merely maintained, it is meant to be lived, deeply, intentionally, and in a direction that feels like yours. You are allowed to want more than what keeps you comfortable. You are allowed to ask, what if there's a different way to live? And the moment you ask that question, you already feel the spark again. You learn to shut your emotions down because feeling them hurt too much. You thought detachment was the cure. You thought if you cared less, you'd hurt less. So you pulled away. You became self-contained. You convinced yourself that nothing phases you. And at first, it worked. The pain got quieter. The chaos went still. You could breathe again. But over time, the silence became suffocating. Because walls don't just block out what hurts. They block out what heals. You weren't trying to become cold. You were trying to survive. You were trying to protect the softest parts of yourself from getting crushed again. Yet somewhere along the line, you forgot how to let anything real in. You avoid disappointment by avoiding hope. You avoid rejection by avoiding connection. You avoid sadness by avoiding joy. You became a spectator in your own emotional world, watching life happen from a safe distance. But safety without connection is just loneliness with better branding. You keep everything inside because you're afraid that if you finally let go, you won't know how to stop it. You say you don't need anyone. You say you're fine on your own. But that's just another layer of armor. Another way of saying, I don't trust that I'll be okay if I let myself feel. Your heart didn't stop working. It simply shut the door until it felt safe again. And here's the truth that's hardest to admit. You miss the intensity. You miss being moved by something. You miss the moments that used to make you come alive. You don't want a quiet life. You want a real one. The numbness you feel is the price you've been paying for a protection strategy that has outlived its purpose. You are not weak for wanting to feel again. You are not dramatic for wanting depth. You are not broken for wanting to connect. Let this be your reminder. The heart does not heal by closing. It heals by opening. Carefully, slowly, but opening nonetheless. You can't keep choosing safety if you want a life that ever makes you proud to be alive. Somewhere along the way, you stopped asking yourself what you need. Not what keeps things stable. Not what keeps others satisfied. What you need. You once had ideas about your future that made you excited, but you pushed them aside because they weren't practical enough. You once had interests that made hours feel like minutes, but you abandoned them because they didn't lead anywhere. You traded curiosity for convenience. You traded passion for predictability. You traded yourself for acceptance. And now, the part of you that once felt alive is starving. You've been running on the minimum requirements of existence, doing only what keeps things functioning, but nothing that keeps you fulfilled. You don't feel empty because you're lacking. You feel empty because you're unmet. You've convinced yourself that wanting more is selfish, that personal needs are a luxury, that as long as nothing is falling apart, you have no right to ache inside. But you are not a machine. You are not built only to maintain a schedule and perform responsibilities on repeat. You need challenge. You need growth. You need experiences that remind you of what it feels like to be fully alive. The emptiness you feel isn't asking for more accomplishments. It's asking for more you. What do you crave? What sparks something in your chest? What have you been putting off for someday? Someday is how dreams starve. Someday is where purpose goes to die. You've been rationing your own life as if you're afraid to enjoy too much of it. But you don't unlock meaning by minimizing yourself. You unlock meaning by giving yourself permission to want what you really want. Your inner life has been whispering for years, "I need more than survival." And now the whisper has become emptiness, because that's the only language left for needs that have been ignored too long. There comes a point where emptiness stops being something you can ignore, becomes a signal, a demand, a refusal to let you keep sleepwalking through your own existence. You look at your life and realize, I can't keep doing this. Not because everything is terrible, but because nothing feels true anymore. This is the moment the real you starts fighting to get back in. It starts subtly, a tiny spark of curiosity, a small moment of honesty, a quiet thought that says, what if I tried something different? That's not impulse. That's your inner life waking up. You don't need to burn everything down. You don't need a dramatic reinvention. All you need is one decision: to stop abandoning yourself. Listen to the part of you that still wants things, the part that hasn't given up, even when you have. Reconnection isn't loud. It's not a sudden transformation. It's gentle. It's patient. It's choosing to care about your own experience again. You rebuild your life by choosing one real thing at a time. One interest you revisit. One emotion you allow. One boundary you protect. One moment you show up as your actual self instead of the version you think others expect. You start to feel little pulses of energy, not excitement exactly, but the possibility of excitement. That's how a spark begins, not with fireworks, but with the courage to say, I want more, and I'm allowed to. You don't have to know where you're going. You just have to stop walking away from yourself. Because every step you take toward who you truly are shrinks the emptiness bit by bit. And the more you return to yourself, the more the world starts to feel alive again. Not different, but finally connected. There comes a day, and maybe this is that day, when silence stops being peaceful and becomes a confrontation. You sit with yourself long enough to recognize the truth you've been avoiding. You aren't empty. You're unexpressed. You've locked away the parts of you that were once real, loud, passionate, and imperfect, because you were taught to appear strong instead of being human. You built walls to avoid judgment, pressure, expectations. But in the process, you locked yourself out of your own life. You became a character in your own story, predictable, controlled, safe, and miserable. You've pretended for so long that you forgot what it felt like to be honest with yourself. You forgot what it felt like to want something boldly, to wake up hungry for life instead of tolerating it. But here's the truth you can't escape anymore. You know you're meant for more than this version of yourself. That thought keeps flashing like a warning light. There is more. There is more. There is more. Not more success, not more praise, not more validation, more you. The part of you that refuses to be numb any longer is rising. It wants change. It wants risk. It wants reality, even if reality hurts. It's the part of you tired of acting like a background character in your own existence. So you have a choice. Keep polishing the mask, or shatter it and breathe for the first time. Yes, it's terrifying to drop the image you've invested years building. But what's even more terrifying? Continuing a life where you feel nothing. You can't keep postponing yourself. There is a moment, a single decision, that divides your life into before and after, where you finally say, I will no longer bury myself to make my life look acceptable. I will no longer shrink to make my identity convenient. I will no longer run from the person I actually am. And when you make that decision, even quietly, even trembling, something radical happens. you meet yourself again. And that reunion destroys emptiness from the inside out. Because the hollow space you've carried for so long was simply the room you were saving for your own arrival. This is where everything changes. There is a comfort in emptiness, a strange safety in feeling nothing. Because if you feel nothing, nothing can hurt you, nothing can disappoint you, nothing can be lost. But comfort is not the same as living. The real danger isn't failure. It's success at the wrong thing. It's mastering the art of surviving while forgetting what it means to be alive. You've been controlling everything so tightly that possibility can't even breathe. You want certainty. You want a guarantee that your effort will pay off before you take the first step. But life doesn't reward caution. It rewards courage. There is a world inside you that you've barely touched. A force that is furious at being kept behind the curtain. That force doesn't want the predictable routine of fine. It wants a reason to wake up with fire in your chest. It wants you to move, to risk, to break the patterns that are slowly dissolving who you are. You are not tired. You are under-challenged. You are not broken. You are underused. You are not empty. You are waiting for yourself to show up at a full strength. The question that will define the rest of your life is not, how do I stop feeling empty? The real question is, what am I willing to push myself toward, even if fear follows me there? Because if you choose a path that matters, a path that stretches you, forces growth out of you, demands something real, you will feel again. You will feel everything. The frustration, the effort, the discomfort, and the exhilarating realization that you are becoming someone who can no longer be ignored, not even by yourself. Life isn't asking you to be fearless. It's asking you to be willing to show up, willing to care again, willing to chase the version of you that refuses to die quietly. This is where purpose begins. Not in certainty, but in choosing a life bold enough to make feeling unavoidable. You spent so much of your life trying to figure out what's missing, as if the emptiness was a flaw, as if it meant something was wrong with you. But here's the truth you've been circling this entire time. That emptiness isn't a weakness, it's a demand for authenticity, a demand for involvement, a demand for your real identity to finally take the lead. You feel hollow, not because you lack something, but because you're overflowing with something that has nowhere to go. Your potential is suffocating inside the boundaries you've accepted. Your intelligence, your passion, your ambition, all of it has been waiting for permission, your own permission. And it starts today. This is the line in the sand, the before and after, the moment you stop living on mute. You don't need to feel ready. You don't need to have a plan. You only need one decision. No more hiding, no more shrinking, no more numb survival. You are stepping into a life that requires your presence, your depth, your full weight. The world does not need a quieter, safer, more silent version of you just to keep others comfortable. The world needs the person you've been postponing, the one who is hungry, the one who is restless, the one who refuses to settle for a life that doesn't feel like a life. That emptiness you've been carrying. It was the space being cleared for your return. Now fill it. Not with distractions, not with noise, not with approval. Fill it with yourself, your curiosity, your courage, your choices, your actions. This is your turning point. Not when everything changes, but when you change, and everything follows.